I want every single person in the XRP family, the XRP army, to know that XRP is the North Star for Ripple. It's our purpose. When we think about what we're doing on Ripple payments or Ripple Prime or Ripple Treasury or custody or RLUSD, this is all focused on how we can drive utility, trust, and velocity or liquidity around XRP and the XRP ledger.
Okay, so 3 stories just crossed my desk that honestly made me stop everything I was doing. We've got an Oracle system backed by almost $1 billion in security that most people have never even heard of. A Japanese financial giant CEO just debunked a viral $10 billion XRP myth, and what he actually revealed might be even more bullish. And then there's this new thing called internet capital markets that generated $2.8 billion in trading volume. But here's the question nobody's asking. Let's get into it. So here's what you need to understand. Every Oracle in crypto right now, Chainlink, Pyth, Band, they're all bolted on after the fact. They're third-party middleware sitting on top of a blockchain. But Flare did something nobody else has done. They built the Oracle directly into the blockchain itself. It's what they call an enshrined Oracle. And yeah, I know that sounds like marketing speak, but let me explain why it actually matters. On Flare, every single validator that secures the network is also a data provider. That means the same $970 million in staked FLR that secures the blockchain also secures every price feed. That's 98 independent data providers submitting prices every 1.8 seconds. Now compare that to Chainlink, right? Chainlink's most demanded feed has 31 providers, and only about 7% of Link tokens are actually staked. On Flare, 67% of circulating supply is staked and actively securing Oracle data. And here's the kicker. FTSO feeds are completely free on Flare. No Oracle fees whatsoever. But what really caught my attention is the institutional traction. Google Cloud is a validator and data provider. Vivo Power, a NASDAQ-listed company, just deployed $100 million in XRP through Flare's ecosystem. Everything Blockchain committed another $10 million. And Uphold, which holds over 1.8 billion XRP, has signaled they're engaging with the F-Assets ecosystem. Oh, and the TVL? It went from 37 million to over 200 million in just a few months after launching USDT Zero and F-Assets. 5 million FXRP were minted within 4 hours of the mainnet launch. They had to cap it. Hugo Fillion, Flare's CEO, put it perfectly. He said, quote, "Because Flare's oracles are built into the structure of the network, we are the only smart contract platform optimized for decentralized data acquisition." End quote. And honestly, looking at the architecture, he's right. So here's what happened. A user on X posted that SBI Holdings possessed, quote, $10 billion worth of XRP tokens, connecting it to SBI's Singapore expansion through their CoinHako acquisition. That post went viral. Kitao himself responded and said, "No, that's not how it works. SBI doesn't hold 10 billion in XRP tokens. What they hold is a 9% equity stake in Ripple Labs, the company. And that's a fundamentally different thing. Based on Ripple's latest private market valuation of roughly $50 billion, SBI's 9% comes out to about $4.5 billion on paper. But here's where it gets really interesting. GAM Global Special Situations Fund, which is an activist hedge fund that owns SBI shares, did a deep dive into SBI's actual net asset value, and they calculated SBI's true NAV at roughly $26 billion versus SBI's market cap of only $14.9 billion. The Ripple stake alone, including indirect exposure to Ripple's 48 billion XRP tokens, was valued at approximately $10.7 billion, which actually exceeds SBI's entire market capitalization at the time. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. The market is effectively assigning negative value to every other business SBI owns. But what most people miss entirely is the ecosystem SBI has built around Ripple. This isn't just a passive investment. SBI Ripple Asia manages a consortium of 61 Japanese banks covering over 80% of the country's banking assets. SBI Remit runs live XRP remittance corridors to the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. SBI VC Trade is about to become the first licensed RLUSD distributor in Japan, and SBI Shinsei Bank launched Hyperdeposit, which gives regular banking customers XRP rewards alongside their savings yield. Oh, and this one detail that everyone overlooked. Japan's fiat to XRP purchases hit $21.7 billion between July 2024 and June 2025. Bitcoin? Only $4.7 billion in the same period. XRP outflows Bitcoin by almost 5x in Japan. That's unprecedented for any major economy, and it's entirely because of SBI's decade-long infrastructure play. And now with Japan cutting crypto taxes from 55% down to 20%, and SBI filing for Japan's first Bitcoin XRP dual ETF, you're looking at a structural catalyst that could unlock massive institutional demand. So what are internet capital markets? At its core, ICM is the idea that blockchain can replace the entire traditional capital market stack. Investment banks, stock exchanges, venture capital firms, with programmable protocols anyone can access. The term was coined by Solana Foundation's Akshay BD and given institutional weight by Multicoin Capital's Kyle Samani, who argued Solana could, quote, reduce fees for financial services to end users by 90 to 99%, while capturing more value than traditional finance incumbents. And the numbers are wild. A platform called Believe, created by Australian entrepreneur Ben Pasternak, launched in late April 2025 and generated $2.8 billion in trading volume within weeks. Over 9,800 tokens were created, 190,000 active traders. Believe's own native token, Launchcoin, surged 27,000%, peaking at 250 million in market cap. Now, before you get too excited, let me give you the other side. That same Launchcoin token, as of February 2026, it's sitting at about $68,000 in market cap. That's a 99.97% decline from peak. And about 90% of all ICM tokens lose significant value within weeks of launching. But here's why you can't just dismiss this. Lily Liu, chair of the Solana Foundation, frames it in terms that should make every institution pay attention. She said, quote, what crypto is doing is providing this unified infrastructure to unify the wealth, the transactions, the financial coffers of 5.5 billion people. And the data supports her thesis. Only 19% of companies earning 100 million plus in revenue are publicly traded in the US. Amazon's 1997 IPO at 440 million created 4,300x returns for public investors. Today's equivalent companies? They stay private until $90 billion valuations. Regular people are locked out of virtually all early-stage wealth creation. And Solana's not just talking about meme coins anymore. Their 2027 roadmap includes tokenized equities through Superstate, synthetic private company exposure through Republic, a dual listing framework with the Astana International Exchange, and sub-150 millisecond finality through a new consensus protocol called Alpenglow. So the real question isn't whether Believe is legitimate. It probably isn't long-term. The question is whether Solana is building the infrastructure for the next generation of capital markets. And the evidence increasingly says yes. So look, Flare is proving that enshrined oracles might be the future of decentralized data, backed by almost $1 billion in security and actual institutional deployments. SBI's decade-long Ripple strategy is finally reaching an inflection point with tax reform, ETF filings, and a potential IPO on the horizon. And internet capital markets, for all the speculation, might genuinely be addressing the biggest structural failure in traditional finance, which is that most people on the planet are locked out of capital markets entirely. None of these stories are about token prices. They're about infrastructure. and infrastructure is what actually changes the world. If this kind of analysis is valuable to you, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment. Which of these three stories do you think has the biggest long-term implications? I genuinely want to hear your take. I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe for institutional grade crypto analysis. Comment which of the three stories has the biggest long-term implications. Share with someone who needs to hear the SBI truth.